The IPA, established by Freud in 1910, is the shared home of the psychoanalysts from all over the world. The IPA's headquarters at Broomhills, with its highly qualified specialist staff, managed by the executive director, Paul Craig, gives us all the support we need to deliver a coherent organization. This enables us to take advantage of all the skills and the talents of the IPA's members. Our administration, like those that have preceded us, intends to preserve the spirit and the general functions of the IPA, but not in a way that is fossilized. For this precise reason, we have planned a number of innovative developments and improving changes geared towards keeping the association efficient, representative, and beneficial to its members, the communities it addresses, and those it could potentially address, as well as to the institutions that could work together with the IPA in a fruitful way, and precisely towards strengthening it in a changing world. These developments and changes are the subject of our presentation today, so that we can share with you the overall vision that characterizes these plans. Our vision is that of psychoanalysis as a living organism, and one that has to relate to the outside world, but also to its own inner world. One that keeps the essence of psychoanalytic thought intact, but that is open to the transformation suggested by the progress of scientific knowledge. One that is capable of transforming itself in an intelligent way, so as to enjoy a long life in both a selective Darwinian and genetically transformative neo-Lamarckian sense. First, communication plan. We have decided to reorganize the communication system for our psychoanalytic community, both internally and externally to the association. We are exploring how to present ourselves more effectively to the outside world. One of our leitmotifs is, if the psychoanalysis object does not present itself, the subject does not know where to find it, and how to enhance communications between our members with regard to all the activities carried out to achieve a collective participation that produces not only information, but also a sense of community belonging. Of course, these changes will take into account both the needs for information and transparency, and the absolute need for legal correctness and respect of the confidentiality rules which change year by year. More specifically, we aim to improve links between the various areas of the organization, for example, by connecting together many of the committees in a sort of necessary synaptic network that is broader, more efficient, and capable of a richly integrated mental life. Second, the website as a mental field for the psychoanalytic community. The website is not a bulletin board for messages. It is a living expression of the scientific, cultural, and interactive life of contemporary psychoanalysis. Our desire is to stimulate and build curiosity, pleasure, and interest in visiting the website, not only among members, but among all those who are in search of useful elements to give a non-superficial meaning to their personal and cultural experiences by reading a variety of clear and carefully considered articles. We think of it, the public part, that is, as a complex magazine which represents psychoanalysis in a non-academic way and encourages further reading and contacts. Part of it will be interactive, with blogs and discussion forums in constant evolution. We have the people, the technical tools, and the ideas to do it, and it would be such a shame not to use these resources and this opportunity. Third, Intersite in education. Just like an intelligent and complex organism, psychoanalysis must continually reflect on the flow of expertise to the new generations of analysts. Our aim is to ensure a serious and frank discussion between the various societies with regard to their training, so that IPA membership is not based solely on formal and/or quantitative criteria, and that the experiences and specific characteristics of the various psychoanalytic schools are better known and become the object of shared knowledge. I personally think that only a true, in-depth debate can mark the difference between a scientific community and a religious community, distinguishing what is recognized as truly essential, on the one hand, from what is experienced as sacred, on the other. We have to preserve the real gold of psychoanalysis without falling into the prison of the castle that Franz Kafka so effectively depicted in his unforgettable novel. 4. Children and adolescents. In our view, this area also requires special care and continuous confrontation between the various psychoanalytic societies. We consider this extremely important, both for the future of psychoanalysis and for the future of the new generations. Aside from the specific treatment of many individuals, and despite recurring criticism and controversies in the media, we know how powerfully psychoanalysis influences contemporary culture, and especially the style of raising children and adolescents in the majority of advanced societies. In addition to all the traumatic situations that life offers, we must take note of many new statistically normal abnormalities, such as the breakdown of families and systematic misuse of TV, cartoons, and PlayStations for the purposes of entertainment, which has provoked an excess of substitute fantasies in children at the expense of creative and anticipatory imagination. The collective tragedy of unrecognized or mistreated mental suffering in childhood demands our responsibilization as analysts in support of a more appropriate culture and a more competent practice and presence in helping children and their caregivers. We do think the IPA has the duty to be there consistently, both for scientific and humanitarian reasons, and we will certainly strengthen our investment in this area. 5th, psychoanalysis and psychiatry. We intend to invest considerable energy in reopening the once thriving dialogue between psychoanalysis and psychiatry. This crucial sector has been witness to a paradoxical situation in many countries. Many psychiatrists turn to psychoanalysis for help on a personal level, for themselves and for their families. And many psychiatric teams actually use the institutional supervisions provided by psychoanalysts. However, these partnerships remain a split area from an institutional and educational point of view, because both in terms of university teaching and in public services, the psychoanalytic presence is either ignored or openly opposed. We have asked Professor Claudio Eidrich to organize and chair a specific psychoanalysis and psychiatry subcommittee with the help of distinguished colleagues working in that field, in partnership with the University and Psychoanalysis Committee and with the research colleagues. We are confident that we can rebuild a bridge between psychoanalysis and the public area that deals with mental illness. It is absurd that choosing psychoanalytically inspired treatment is a last resort for so many people who could have benefited from it enormously from the outset of their journey as patients, amidst hospital admissions and massive, not always appropriate doses of psychopharmacological drugs. Psychiatrists and psychoanalysts can recognize their specific areas of expertise to work together in the fight against mental illness, a field where there is room for everyone and where there is a need for mutual support. 6, research, connecting IPA membership and researchers. A complete reorganization of the research area has been started with the new chair, Mark Solms. The central idea was to simplify the structure by having a central research executive and 3 sub-areas: conceptual, clinical, and extra-clinical. The method of working will be much more proactive than now, inviting applications based on a consideration of the research priorities, rather than waiting to receive application and then assessing them. 3 other key points will be constant contact between the IPA board and the research executive, also to suggest possible areas of interest or need that require the development of specific research projects. Second, a continuous flow of information to members about the research activities they are funding through a specific research area on the IPA website. Third, the possibility of interactive communication, again via the website, between IPA members and researchers. In essence, since the economic efforts of the IPA in support of research are substantial, around 20% of the total budget, it seems only right that IPA members are regularly informed about the activities carried out in this field, and that they also have the opportunity to express their opinions constructively with regard to those activities. 7th, the IPA Regions Electronic Journal. Having enjoyed for many years now a most fruitful partnership on equal terms with the PIE and ILAP training institutes, the regional organizations EPF, FEPAL, and NAPSAC, supported by APSA, have decided to partner together for a new publishing enterprise as part of a similarly equal and co-responsible joint venture. The IPE Regions e-Journal, a supranational scientific body owned neither by a society nor by private individuals, but by the institutions mentioned earlier, is currently undergoing study by a special committee made up of institutional representatives and technicians who will prepare a plan to be implemented in a short time. This idea has gathered a vast consensus, as it did seem paradoxical that despite an international psychoanalytic institution having existed for over a century now, the community did not have its own journal to represent it fully and impartially. This new journal will be different from the already existing, long-standing, prestigious journal, and will be committed to ensuring the absolute internationality of its editorial management, including policies of editorship rotation and representations of all countries at all levels. If, as seems certain now, we can succeed in carrying through this complex new initiative, it will be an enterprise our partners' organizations can be proud of, culturally and scientifically balanced, open to contributions from the different schools of thought, centrally independent and politically supranational. 8th, and final, the IPA Encyclopedic Psychoanalytic Dictionary. Finally, we believe that the time is ripe to embark upon another great scientific endeavor, the preparation of an IPA psychoanalytic dictionary. There are many excellent dictionaries of psychoanalysis, but the IPA, and in our opinion, only the IPA at this time, has the human resources, the scientific potential, and the cultural articulation to create an extraordinarily complete and advanced one that is truly representative of the various theoretical trends and schools in the psychoanalytic world. A work of this magnitude requires not only an extensive knowledge of psychoanalysis, past and present, but also considerable editorial and organizational skills. It will not be the work of a few, however valuable, researchers, but of several coordinated work groups. The goal is to provide all psychoanalysts and all psychotherapists who work psychoanalytically with a truly international and up-to-date tool for consultation and reference of a superior quality and wide scope, which represents both the trunk and the branches of the psychoanalytic tree, as it has grown from Freud to the present day. Conclusion. All of these ideas can become realities if we are able to work together in partnership with our colleagues from the various regions. Personally, like most of you, I spend a lot of time in clinical work with patients, in contact with both of their inner life and my own. Clinical work is the true core of analysis. There we find depth, precious, partial, timelessness, the immense potential of psychoanalysis with its secret passages that open inner doors and allow recoveries, transformations, and integrations that would otherwise be impossible. However, for a long time now, I have also been used to working with colleagues in my society, in the working parties, and the IPA board, and like many of you, I have dedicated a substantial part of my energies to our psychoanalytic community. As we all know well, each one of us draws inspiration and strength in a more or less conscious way from our own personal Urszene, the scenario of our origins. Each one of us has our own Przybor, which we can achieve if things progress well enough and if the Kafka's castle doesn't imprison us. And we will achieve our own Berggasse, our own Gesellschaft, and finally, the international association. My initial work was centered around the large kitchen of an old house in the hills near Bologna, where every evening my parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, and siblings would gather together under an oak architrave dating back to the 15th century. My word today does not negate these origins. On the contrary, it brings them back to life here, in this great scientific and professional community that also works to integrate the old separation experiences and the further developments attained first through school, then through university, specialist hospital, seminar, and conference. My oak architrave today is psychoanalysis. Under it, our many languages and cultures are an inexhaustible wealth of resources, and we will work together to ensure that the IPA really is a home for all psychoanalysts, in the outer reality, but especially in the inner one. Thank you very much.